Bethalto, today on Old School 95.5.
Before the break, Halbert Sullivan, president and CEO of Father Support Center here in St. Louis. We were just getting into the teeth of child support and money.
You pointed out something when I said depends on the defining of things. Yes, the systems are geared towards the mother. I don't know. I don't have a real reason, but what I do know is I didn't carry no baby for 9 months.
I know that's right.
So I think the scales should be tipped a little bit, but not, to whereas everybody is all messed up. But the mom carried that child for the 9 months. And not only did she, in most, not every, but in most situations, she's the nurturer. She's the one that's getting up at night to see about the crying baby. She's the one that's changing the diaper. She's the one that's nursing the baby. And I said very clearly, in not all situations, but just most. And therefore, when we look at our laws in our society, they can't make a law for 300 million. Individual law for 300 million people. Its laws are made for the collective, what's for the betterment. And so, if our fathers, when there's a breakup that occurs with a cohabitating couple, they need to go and get legal action going so that they can be a legal part of their child's life. When we talk about this child support situation, those are legalities. And as you know, we have a difficult time dealing with the courts.
Oh, without a doubt. and the state at times, too. Especially when you're trying to get maybe a modification on a child support payment or whatever. The state may take its time in getting that information out to that person or its employer so that it can have a little bit more money than he would usually get on a paycheck.
The state is not necessarily just taking their time. We must understand the people need to accept how big this problem is. In St. Louis City alone, there are 10,000 dads that are required to pay child support. So when you combine the city and the county, you might have 20, 30,000.
Well, it's a heck of a waiting list.
It's a
heck of a waiting list.
And as you know from the previous 6-7 years, resources have been cut from the federal level on down to the state level. So they don't have the staff in place to move modifications the way folk think they should be moved. And that is a huge problem, okay? But some things we just... It's not utopia. It's not a perfect place, okay? And I my heart definitely goes out to our low-income earners, where the quickest way to get that modification done would be through a court. You can get in a court, but our low-income earners can't afford to pay child support and attorney at the same time. So my heart goes out to them. But if you do go through the state system, I encourage you, stay on top of it, because it will happen. It won't happen if you don't stay on top of it. You know how they say it's the squeaky wheel that gets the oil?
Right.
Then stay on top of it, okay? And then I also, when I speak about our low-income earners, again, I know that many of them cannot afford both, okay? But it's a very strange thing that we can afford these Nike tennis shoes and have every one.
That's true.
So we need to look at some of our spending habits to get our priorities in order. Why should I have every new Nike that comes out at $60 or $70 per and not be using those resources to deal with the so-called system?
It's all about priorities, too.
Priorities is, and we talk about that in our classes with the guys, is how to prioritize. We choose to prioritize around the child. My thinking is that fathers love their children, man. You know how it is, man. That young dad, I'm having a baby. Boy, you ain't having no baby.
That's the best time of your life.
They love their children, okay? And so we build it around that, and we grow that. We have bonding activities so that these so-called non-resident, non-custodial dads will have the opportunity to be engaged or re-engage with their children so that that bond can develop. A father who is bonded with his child, you don't hear a whole lot of horror stories about child support and financial things from that dad. You know, he may talk about how difficult it is to find a job, but he's not talking about this other stuff because he wants good stuff for his baby.
Now, Halbert, let's say, for instance, if a woman refuses the father access or visitation rights, can you guys at the Father Support Center step in and try to help this guy cultivate a relationship with his kids?
Sure, that's one of the things that we do. We're very blessed here in St. Louis. We have one of the better agencies, fathered agencies in the country, and we have a legal team, which other ones in the country don't have. I had asked the staff what this radio interview would be about because I wanted to bring the legal person with me in the event that there was such questions. But yes, we do. We do step in and help to get legal visitations in place. And legal is the key term. Legal visitations in place. We tried also to help the father to understand. We have relationship skills building classes, how to interact with the mother of the child so that there can be some visitation extended to that child.
That's got to be the biggest class of all.
And that's also one of the most difficult classes of all, because while we're talking with him, we need to be talking with her too, so that she can understand. Many of our young ladies doesn't get the value. I don't know if it's in your packet, but in the year 2000, 2002, the state of Missouri put out a report. It came out of the Office of Child Support Enforcement. Of the fathers who had child support orders and visitation, legal visitation, 75% of those guys voluntarily paid their child support, versus the fathers who had child support orders and no visitation, only 35%. So if the mothers understood the value of allowing access to that child so that they can bond, until that bond occurs, you will know that it's your baby, most likely. But when you go through a brick wall for it and there's no, use an example here. Suppose you had two siblings and one of them went up north and the other one grew up with you. You would say you love the one up north, but which one would you love the most?
The one that's with you.
The one that's with you.
Because that's the one that you've bonded with.
That's the one you bonded with. So we do some conversations with the mothers of the children because we need their permission oftentimes to have the child involved in our bonding activities. But that is one of our better conversations, one of our better courses is how to interact with the mother of the child so that we can increase the bond between the father and the child.
Halbert, you have a good program here. We don't hear too much about the program in depth, only when we have a commercial that airs. That's the only time we really know what's going on with Father Support Center. How hard is it for you or your staff to have more programs and an outreach program so people can know the positives of having a Father Support Center here in St. Louis? Another question, you have such a great program here. How often do you get funded?
We are funded. The city of St. Louis, and I should say the entire community, not only the city but the county as well. That's what has allowed us to be that great program. Our funding streams are very diverse. We receive fund donations from the community. Our fundraisers are very well attended. We also receive government resources, government dollars. We have one of the largest federal government contracts in the country at this particular time. And we also receive dollars from the state, and we receive dollars from our local corporations and our local foundations. We're very well supported. A lot of that support is because of these outcomes that you asked about earlier. It is very unusual. I think the national average is about 4 or 5, whereas we play 6, 7 out of 10 on a job. Okay, that means that 6 or 7 is now paying child support. But not only do we do the job placement piece, 80% of our fathers gain interaction with their children. And that's the key to this whole thing, is that they get together and a responsible dad helps a child to get on a great path. So we're pretty well supported. When we talk about outreach opportunities, no, we don't have all the funding that we need, but we're not necessarily the answer to everything that is needed. One of the things that I would like to see happen for entities that are working with families, Grace Hill, Urban League, that they incorporate some work with the father. And then that way we don't have
That's where you guys come in.
We don't have to do all the work, though.
Right.
Because we're not going to get all the resources. And because these entities have an interaction with the mother parent, where's the father parent at? Can we get some interaction with him? Okay? If we can do that, then we don't need to try to garner up all the resources, because we're not going to be able to touch every family in our region that requires or needs the help. But the other people, and some of this are the other agencies, and some of this has to do with a change of mindset in the provisions of social services. Normally, our society has envisioned family as being mother and child. How about family being father and child? We've already began to change our notion. In the 50s and the 60s, family meant married. Mm-hmm. We've accepted cohabitation in America. Why not accept it in this provision of social services? I think it was in 1999, I was doing a conference. I was a speaker at a conference in Minneapolis. And I talked to a young lady in Minneapolis, and she was involved in a social service program that provided an opportunity for her and for her live-in boyfriend. The opportunity for her was a training as well as daycare for the children. The opportunity for her live-in boyfriend was a job and training. And if they participated in the program for 2 years, then they would help them with the assets to buy their first home. So it wasn't about the so-called legal marriage. It was about the entire family, and by providing these types of resources, you're more likely to keep the family together, because most families is still based on the financial situations. You know, when you look at our current systems, and you got a boyfriend and a girlfriend together, and the lady is able to go down to social services and get the money, the food, the groceries, and maybe even get a Section 8 housing, she really don't need him that much no more. She really don't need him. And then what the couple will do is, because all of that is available, honey, you going on down there and get that. I'll just step away for a minute or two until you get that all in place. And I say that based on my own life. I grew up very, very poor. I've lived in the house with women while they was getting social services. You know, that's just a way of surviving when you live in a urban, impoverished community. So if we provide services that might empower or help both, first we bring them from being underground, and we get them to becoming taxpayers, but we also cause a family to have the best opportunity to stay together. It's about resources, poverty, economics. That's what it's about, to keep families together so that our children have a better opportunity.
Halbert Sullivan, Father Support Center. You're a heck of a speaker, man.
well, we're talking about something that I know about. You know, it's not as though I could just
there
go
is
with
no
any
denying
topic.
about
This is
that,
something
Halbert.
that we know about. We continuously do research. That's one of the reasons that we have a good program. We continue to do research. We continue to modify where required, and we continuously to look at our data. We collect our data sheet that we collect on our guys is about 17, 18 pages long, so that we can continuously to know how we're going to. But we look at best practice. We just don't wake up in the morning and say, well, we're going to do this. No, best practice. We look at different research pieces to get a good thing going. A lot of times folks across the nation, they want to ask me questions about my program. Well, our guys come to us 5 days a week from 8 o'clock to 4 o'clock for 6 weeks. That's the first part of that year. Well, why so much, Halbert? Have you ever tried to teach a person something, a new something, by them coming to you once or twice a week for an hour? It is much more difficult when you go down that road. Not only that, for that 6 week period of time, for most of their day, they're out of their environment.
Yeah.
We have to try to get people to change their mindset. What we do is a therapeutic process. We're not just giving out stuff. He has to participate. You know, many of our guys, we talked about the numbers earlier. We put men out of our program too. Mm-hmm. You must be a willing participant. What we're trying to do is to help him to change his mindset about his child, about his family, and about his community and himself as well. So you got to participate in that. You know, when I say 8 to 4, if you were in our class, which I would like to invite you to the class, and ask them what does 8 o'clock mean, and they're going to tell you it means you late, because we want you here at 7:45. Well, we're getting them ready for a job.
That's true.
We're getting them ready for a job. Oftentimes, you haven't been engaged in employment for 3, 4, 5, 6 months. So that means your automatic clock don't work anymore.
That's true.
Okay?
That's true.
When an employer says he wants you to start working at 8, it don't mean he wants you getting there at 8 and then going to the bathroom, then go and get coffee, and then go and talk to your friend. He wants you working
there at 8 o'clock.
So you need to get there early so that you can do those other things that you like to do. So we're working on job readiness all the time. As I pointed out, parenting and understanding parenting and knowing how to interact with the child is one of the most important things you can do. But if the ice cream truck comes down the street, you got your baby and you parenting, every other child is getting some ice cream, but you ain't got the money to get the ice cream, what's going to happen in that situation? Sooner or later, you're going to take yourself away from that pain, because as a father, a parent, you want to be able to get some ice cream for your baby too. But the truck keep coming. I ain't got the money to get the ice cream.
Right.
I'm going to soon stop coming around because it's painful. So we want him to have a job and understand the value of that job. Not only in relationship to the ice cream, but a man's primary role is to be a provider in his family. We have some great women, man. If God made something better than a woman, he kept it in heaven for himself. They will love you until you learn how to love yourself. But let you keep coming to their dinner table and you ain't putting no dinner on the table, and
That's
see how much love
story.
that is going to be. So we want him to understand the value of bringing, if it's a minimum wage job, at least you bring something to the table. And we encourage our men to work. And we also, part of the year of being in our program is to help him to move from minimum wage to living wage, to help him to get a GED, to help him get into a training program. We try to bring a holistic, comprehensive process that'll move him forward, but he's got to be willing to operate.
President and CEO Halbert Sullivan of Father Support Center, you have been an enlightening interview this morning.
So we just try to do the best we can.
Thanks for coming to the show. Much success to the dream that came alive with the Father Support Center. And let's make sure that every father knows the responsibility of being a father to lead and direct for many years to come. Thank you so very much.
Well, I really appreciate this opportunity. And in order to make sure that every father gets an opportunity, we're located, our main location is 4411 North Newstead. Our phone number is 333-4170. And you can look us up on Facebook. We got Twitter account, as well as our website, which is fathersupport.org. Thanks for having me.